Hello, welcome to the Kim Iversen Show. Thank you guys so much for being here. Well, what did I tell you? While everyone else, all the other shows out there, were screaming about the bank collapses being about deregulation and bailouts, the reality is more and more evidence is mounting that the collapse of SVB, Signature, and Silvergate was in fact a targeted assassination on crypto. Now let's go over the evidence. Starting off back on March 9th, 4 U.S. senators wrote a letter to the bank regulators accusing them of attempting to debank America. The 4 senators were Bill Hagerty from Tennessee, Mike Crapo from Idaho, Tom Tillis from North Carolina, and Steve Daines from Kansas. Now let me read to you some of what their letter says. They say here in this, this letter was written to the Federal Reserve, the FDIC, and the OCC, collectively the banking regulators. They say the banking regulators and the White House have released several statements calling on heightened supervision for crypto-related activities. These releases have caused banks to reevaluate their decision to provide banking services to the crypto sector, resulting in crypto firms' bank accounts being unexpectedly closed. This coordinated behavior seems disturbingly reminiscent of Operation Chokepoint, which, as you know, was an Obama administration initiative where federal regulators applied pressure on financial institutions to cut off financial services to certain licensed, legally operating industries simply because certain regulators and policymakers disfavored those industries. Legal investigation found that government officials illegally targeted lawful businesses in an ideological crusade based on personal disdain. They later go on to say it appears that the desired outcome from the banking regulators is similar to that of Operation Chokepoint, the debanking of the crypto industry in America. We are especially worried that overreaching behavior by the banking regulators will inevitably bleed into other legal industries. Any industry could be potentially disfavored based on a given regulator's ideological perspective. So they wrote this on March 9th saying, we believe that this is Operation Chokepoint 2.0, essentially reminiscent of Operation Chokepoint. So that's the first piece of evidence that this, in fact, was a targeted assassination, that these bank collapses were a targeted assassination, that they were not about deregulation and banks being crooked and corrupt and them going and trying to, help themselves out, that this was a targeted assassination on crypto. Now, on March 9th, just a few days ago, the Wall Street Journal editorial board confirmed it was crypto. They wrote an op-ed entitled, "Barney Frank was right about Signature Bank." And the first line in their op-ed, we never thought we'd write that headline. They go on to say in their op-ed, but on Sunday, the Federal Insurance Corporation, now this last Sunday, okay, this is recent, but on Sunday, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation announced that New York Community Bancorp's Flagstar Bank will assume all of Signature Bank's cash deposits except for those of crypto companies. This confirms Mr. Frank's suspicions and ours that Signature's seizure was motivated by regulators' hostility towards crypto. And that they go on to detail even more of the deal between Flagstar Bank's bid, which did not include the approximately $4 billion of deposits related to the former Signature Bank's digital asset banking business. And by the way, similar restrictions have been put on SVB. Now, many in the crypto world were aware of the war against them and had been talking about it for quite some time before those of us on the outside even took notice. Here's a well-known crypto enthusiast and commentator, Coin Bureau, talking about Operation Chokepoint 2.0 back in early February, which, by the way, this was written off by many as a conspiracy theory. Here it is.
The US government is at war with the crypto industry, and it is employing a sneaky new tactic to try and bring it down. It's become increasingly apparent over the last few months that the US administration, along with various other arms of the state, such as the Federal Reserve and the Justice Department, are targeting any banks that work with crypto companies, basically trying to cut crypto out of banking services. Over the last few months, they have been making life increasingly increasingly difficult for any banks that work alongside crypto companies, doing things like launching investigations into their activities and also denying these banks key licenses that they need to operate. Now, this looks to be a resurrection of something called Operation Chokepoint, which was a scheme launched back in the Obama era that aimed to try and cut industries that the government didn't like out of the banking sector. These included things like online poker and also payday lenders. It basically used the same tactic we're seeing here: lock them out of banking services and make it as difficult as possible for these industries to operate. And now they are using this to turn their focus onto crypto. This is basically just a stealthy way of cutting off oxygen to the crypto industry without having to go to all the expense and bother of legislating against it specifically. Now, Operation Chokepoint was shut down under President Trump, but it looks like it is being resurrected in some way in order to go after the crypto industry. Now, what does this mean? Well, it means that it's going to become increasingly difficult for crypto companies to operate inside the United States. Now, although this isn't great news for crypto, it isn't terminal either, because fortunately lots of other countries and jurisdictions are drafting sensible sounding regulations that will make it possible for the crypto industry to operate in those areas. However, it looks like the United States is only becoming increasingly more unfriendly to the crypto industry. And let's face it, even though crypto is designed to eventually replace the existing financial system, for now it really needs to be able to work with the banking sector.
So there you have it. People have been screaming about Operation Chokepoint 2.0 for a while, those in the crypto community, but that word had not really leaked out much. And when it did, people said that's just a big conspiracy theory. Yet here we are today. What Coin Bureau said absolutely happened. It happened in front of our faces, with U.S. senators screaming about it, saying, we see this is happening, with people in the crypto community saying, we see this is happening. And here it is. It has happened. And people are still turning a blind eye to this targeting. This is a mechanism for control. If they can control your money, they can control you. And that is what they're trying to do. They're trying to consolidate all of the power to the top at the Federal Reserve so that they could control the dollar. They're trying to shore up the dollar. They're trying to ensure, as they see, as we've had guests on this show, like Ed Dowd, when he was talking about, look, the banking system is set up and it's just doomed to fail. The way that it was set up from the beginning, it was bound to ultimately at some point collapse, and they see it collapsing. And so what they're trying to do is control that collapse. They're trying to ensure that those who are the power players remain the power players when the whole thing comes crumbling down, and they have to rebuild it from scratch. So they're scrambling. They're scrambling to save it. They're scrambling to consolidate that power to the top. They want to control the dollar. That is what they're trying to do. They're trying to shore up the global currency, the global value of the dollar, and they're trying to ensure that they can roll out these CBDCs. That is part of it. And getting in the way of those CBDCs has been the crypto community. So more evidence of this, what we've been talking about on this show, that other shows have been talking about, the deregulation, they've been talking about the, this is just a bailout for the banks, but we have been talking about, no, this is a concerted effort to control the money in America, to control the global money supply, in fact. And here's some more evidence to that. We've seen now that all of these small banks are now losing loads of cash. $1 trillion in deposits have been run out of the small banks in America, and they were saying this has happened. The majority of the outflows have happened since March. Since the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, more and more small banks have lost depositors. They're running to the large banks. They're saying, whoa, I don't trust you. I'm not sure. I need to go to a too big to fail bank. One of the Fed banks, Chase, right? That's basically Chase is the Chase and Citibank are the largest. They're the largest shareholders of the New York Fed, which is basically the Federal Reserve. Now, also, we see, so you've got all these banks in crises, right? And we've been saying that the goal is to consolidate all the small banks into the large banks. We heard this from Richard Werner, a brilliant economist who was on this show, saying that is the ultimate goal. Is they want to collapse all the small banks, the community banks. They want to consolidate them all to the biggest banks. That way they can control the money supply completely, and they can roll out the CBDCs. And if you get everybody's money into the same place, then it's a lot easier to start controlling it. It's a lot easier to roll out those CBDCs. So all of the little banks are now in trouble. You see $1 trillion leaving those little banks. It's a run on the little banks. And what does the Fed do? What did the Fed do this week? What did they do? They raised interest rates again by 1/4 point. Why would they do that? If the banks are already stressed, and they're already stressed to the max where they're about to collapse, why would you then stress them even a little bit more? In fact, if the Fed really wanted to help out those small banks, you know what they would have done? They would have cut the interest rate. They would have cut it by 1/4 point. Or they would have at least done nothing. They would have announced nothing. Instead, they're squeezing the little guy even more by raising up 1/4 point. Now these little banks are getting it from everybody. The Fed is not helping them out. People are running on the banks. They're putting record numbers of deposits into the big banks. Chase said they've received a record number of depositors running to their bank as they squeeze it out of the little guy. That's the real thing that's been going on. So this is about consolidating all the power to the top, to consolidating all of the power over money in one place. That includes controlling crypto. And if you have to collapse it, get rid of it, then that's what you've got to do. That means controlling the money supply. If you have to collapse and get rid of those little guys, that's what you have to do. You have to get it all to the top so the Fed can control it and roll out those CBDCs. Sounds like a big conspiracy theory, right? Yeah, well, what Coin Bureau said back in February, what many in the crypto community have been saying about Operation Chokepoint 2.0 had all been a big conspiracy theory until it's not a conspiracy theory. And that seems to be the theme of the day here in this country at this point. Everything that seems to be a conspiracy theory is actually not a theory at all, but conspiracy reality. All right, guys, you can buy gold and get a free safe to store it in. That is happening on qualifying purchases from Birch Gold Group now through March 31st. So they will ship a free safe directly to your door. All you have to do is visit birchgold.com/Kim and get your free info kit on gold, because you might want to be diversifying your accounts. It's a good idea in this economy and everything that's going on with the banking crisis, and we don't really know what is going on with the dollar and whatnot. So if you want to get some safety and some security, you might want to diversify, and gold is a great way to do that. Birch Gold is a great company that can help you with that. Just go to birchgold.com/Kim, get that free info kit, and to claim eligibility for your free safe. So that's all you got to do. Start looking into it. A specialist will work with you. You might want to convert your existing 401k or IRA into an IRA in precious metals, or you might want to get yourself some physical gold and silver and other precious metals that you keep in that safe. It is up to you. Talk to that specialist. Visit birchgold.com/Kim to get that free info kit.